welcome everyone to the Co-Creators Convergence third Thursday call. My name is Noel Marshall and I'm here with...
Hi, I'm Bob Warner.
And together we call ourselves LightPartners. And I guess you would call us the mom and pop of another group called the Co-Creators Convergence. And Bob's going to tell you a little bit about the Co-Creators Convergence. Bob?
The Co-Creators Convergence is really a Barbara Marx Hubbard legacy group that's dedicated to giving our unique gift to the shift in humanity, thereby creating a world that works for everyone. We do this with much love, compassion, and joy as we honor all realms of creation to accelerate the awakening of humanity. And we would love to have all of you that aren't already a part of this community. And it's as simple as 4 different ways to participate. One is where we are right now, which is the third Thursday of every month. We host a call and gather together the perfect people that need to be on that call on Thursday night, and always have someone here that's going to share their work in the world and their wisdom, ways that we can support them and have great conversation. A second way to participate is to be a part of our very active Facebook group. And we welcome you to join that. As I say, it's a very active way for us to support one another and our work in the world. The third way is with the co-creatorsconvergence.com website, where we have information about our events, but also have archives of all these calls going back 6 years. Clear back to a time before Zoom, clear back to a time before video calls. They're just audio calls. And an amazing collection of conversations. And the fourth way we get together is annually, until this year, the year of the Great Disruption. We have gotten together at Sunrise Ranch in Loveland, Colorado, to sit in circle together at the annual Co-Creators Convergence. And of course, we plan to be together again in 2021, or evolve to whatever it is that the Great Disruption is calling us to evolve and emerge this group differently.
So thank you, Bob. So look us up. Our Facebook page is facebook.com/group/loveCCC. So you get a tongue twister there, Co-Creators Convergence, CCC, that's us. So thank you all for joining us.
Yeah.
And are you going to lead us in a little meditation?
Sure, that would be wonderful. I'd like to do that. And then Noel's going to introduce Sommer and Jon, who have come into our life as a soul sister and soul brother. And we're so happy to now know them in this human form and be traveling the consciously evolving road together. So I'd invite all of us for just a moment to, if it's comfortable for you, to close your eyes and take a deep breath in. Breathe in the love that exists in the world and breathe out the light that shines through each of us, that reflects off of and through each of us, and that is amplified as it comes through our heart and radiates out into the world. And take another deep breath in and out, and recognize that here we are sitting in circle around the campfire this evening, the Co-Creators Convergence Campfire. An opportunity to look to your right and to your left to see your fellow travelers on this conscious evolution journey that we're on. And know that as we sit around the campfire in this presence, in spirit, we're allowed to hold hands here. It is safe. It is safe to hold hands. It's safe for us to hold each other's hearts as we sit around the campfire this evening. As we take another breath, we recognize that, in fact, every other soul, living soul, is sitting with us around the campfire this evening. And it is ours to be able to reach out to them with our hearts, touch them with our hands and our hearts, and know that we are all one. This is going to be a very special evening because we are all going to make it a very special evening. And together we can take one more breath in, breathing in the love, breathing out the light. And open our eyes and enjoy our time together. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. I trust you've all returned. And so I have the joy of introducing Sommer Joy and Jon Ramer. And we met them, we went with Unity Earth. Ben Bowler organized a trip to the Holy Land. And that was February 1 through 7th. And it was actually United Nations Interfaith Harmony Week. So a delegation of 100 souls from different faith traditions all joined together. It was a marvelous, marvelous trip with so many celebrations and so many sacred places and really heart opening and prayer. And we are also guided by Gidon Bromberg of Eco Peace Middle East, who also educated us about the restoration of the Jordan River and how that can play a part in peace, in bringing these countries with disparate political outcomes and worldviews. They're sharing one river, and how can they bring that back to life? So that was an amazing trip. And of course, we had heard of Sommer and Jon before this trip, but we never had a full experience. And that was an introduction. And then another introduction was through World Unity Week, which was, I think, put together in about 2 weeks. But so I, in some ways, am very curious about these two. So I'm going to ask them to explain to us what they've been doing on this planet and how they came together and what their plans are now. So I'm not going to go into reading a big bio thing, because I really just want to have a conversation so they can shine their light for us and we get to pick their brains, I hope, because they also have brought together the SINE Network, Synergized Impact Network Exchange, almost as hard to say as a co-creators convergence. And, and that's bringing together so many different groups and lifting them up. And that's what I think the co-creators convergence has always been about. It's your unique gift. How can we lift that up for you? So we feel very aligned with the purpose of SINE Network and have in fact joined. Mm-hmm. The co-creators convergence has in fact joined. So right now I'm going to turn it over to you, Jon and Sommer, if it's okay. Can we give us a little background and dazzle us with your gifts, and we'll also want to pick your brains if that's all right.
Of course, we're here to serve.
Yeah, well, just thank you for having us today. And we have been on a wild journey, and it's been an honor to be on that journey with both of you, Noel and Bob, and many of you in this Zoom room. Some of you that are also SINE members, and Fumi, it's always an honor to be in space with you. Meeting her and really swimming in the Dead Sea is, I would say, one of the ways that I really got to know her. And for those of you that I don't know yet, I look forward to experiencing this with you. And you know, synergy, the topic, world synergy, and what was the other part of the topic? And something medicine, unity medicine. So funny that that's the part I would forget. You know, that is just really at the heart of everything that I've been up to, especially since I've met this person sitting next to me. In 2014, we met, and I didn't really know, but I met him while I was playing the compassion games, and I was at a compassion activation station once upon a time when we would all go to farmers markets and gather and blend and things. Remember those days? Yeah, I was painting prayer flags that were going to be a part of a peace treaty signing, bringing different Native tribes together on the Canada and US side. And if you paint a flag, that would be contributed to the peace treaty signing. This was September 14th, 2014 to be exact. And, you know, we met and we began, our souls began to collide. It was something cataclysmic and something I had never really experienced before. And really, it's like one of the most organic, beautiful flowers that's opened in my life, meeting Jon, which eventually we, fell in love. And I would say we, jumped up into love. And the journey of the Compassion Games and the SINE Network feels like it comes from that same place of this like really magnetic, like, what is this? What I've never experienced this type of love before. I've never felt this amazing energy before. And that also is kind of how, I found myself involved in the Compassion Games with Jon, and he, started it a few years before I came into the picture. And then the SINE Network, I kind of feel like is almost like a baby that's birthed through us, because it really came through us. It was like we were in a Zoom room similar to this one day, and we kind of looked at each other and we're like, I think we're doing the SINE Network. It was like a conversation that we just realized that we were doing. And so there's something that I would say is just this very organic, emergent, alive through all that are a part, that I have found is so exciting to me. And there's something that people are drawn to. People kept playing the Compassion Games starting in 2012, starting with 2 cities, and now there's over 500 cities all over the world that have also become compassionate cities that are wanting unity, wanting justice and peace in the world. And the SINE Network started with a few members. I remember in 2018 when we were like celebrating that we had 10 members in the SINE Network. Like, this is so exciting. And now how many members do we have? How many organizations? And there's just something that I feel about this.
Get that, Sommer? How many?
Jon?
100. Make it a little louder.
Can you not hear us?
Yes, we just couldn't hear Jon when he said how many.
About 200.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
And Sommer, if you could just back up just a little bit, I would like to get a little more clarity on Compassion Games, what that is and how that came about, how people participate in that.
Okay. Let me.
I would like.
First off, I love to tell people that compassion's been good to me by out doing community service. That's how I met Sommer. So, if anybody.
Not that that's why you were out there doing it.
That's the point. I was just out there trying to do the right thing, and miracle happened in my life. I met Sommer. But it goes back to in the Seattle area. I grew up in New York, but I'm in Seattle. And in Seattle in 2008, the Dalai Lama visited for a 5-day event called the Seeds of Compassion. And it was the largest event in the history of the state, free to the public.
Still to this day, largest
It was a beautiful example. And Desmond Tutu came and many, many others. And we noticed that same time, Karen Armstrong won the TED Prize. And Karen Armstrong is a religious scholar who I didn't know at the time. And when you win the TED Prize, you get one wish to change the world. So her wish was to implement globally the golden rule. She said, we need a golden rule for our time. So that was really interesting. I noticed that next year in 2009, the Charter for Compassion was unveiled. And when I saw it, I was disappointed that you can only sign as an individual. There was no way to institutionalize compassion. I thought we should be able to put compassion into our city government. We ought to put compassion into the way that we institutionalize schools and all those places that could use compassion. So we made a crazy deal with the mayor and the city council that if we could get 1,500 people to pledge their time and talent and treasure to help people meet their basic needs, Seattle would become the first city to affirm the Charter for Compassion and start a 10-year campaign to become a compassionate city. Well, sure enough, it happened. Other cities we put the call out to, and believe it or not, like Sommer said, there's now the Charter for Compassion became its own nonprofit in the process, and there's like 500 cities. But one city in particular was outstanding in their play, and that was Louisville, Kentucky. And we honored the mayor and his team, brought them to Seattle, and I couldn't believe it. Me, growing up in Brooklyn, that little competitive streak in me, he sends me a letter claiming that they're the most compassionate city in the world and will be so till proven otherwise. I couldn't believe it. Here we were honoring them, and this is what they say. And then, in fact, to make it worse, they said they were so compassionate.
You mean better.
Well, depends how you look at it. They would come out to Seattle to help us beat them. I said, oh my God, now what are we going to do? These guys are really forcing us to up our game. And what was so funny, guys, you know, all the years being out on the street, telling people about all the facts, all the reason why we need to care, people, no one responded like they did when I would tell them, well, you know, the mayor of Louisville says they're the most compassionate city. People would say, really? How can I get involved? I couldn't believe it. I realized something at that moment that really I've never forgotten. So we called it a co-opetition. You can't lose the compassion games. And competere, it's survival of the kindest. Competere actually means to strive together. That we really misunderstood competition and misunderstood the survival of the fittest idea. So it was our culture hack. It was our way to suggest that we could play, because the truth is you got to get out of your comfort zone. Anything from a random act of kindness to super organized service projects. If you look on the Compassion Games website, you'll see this map. They've played them in prisons. They've played them in all places around the world. It's been a really beautiful example of what communities could do. But what happened to me, and Fumi was on that trip in Ethiopia in 2018, just before with Unity Earth, I met David Gershon, who's...
No, Fumi was with us in the Holy
No,
Land. Not in
Fumi was
Ethiopia.
in Ethiopia. They did the prayer ceremony too. You didn't remember that?
What?
Remember in the African Union?
Oh.
That's right.
Fumi, why do I feel like I just met you, though, in the Holy Land? Well, anyway.
Whatever.
Okay.
But so David said to me, you know what? The compassion games and the compassionate cities and being nice and kind, all that's really good, but that isn't going to make any difference. It was like a punch in my gut. He said, we need behavior change at scale. And you know what? I said, he's right. And that's what birthed SINE, because I've been so frustrated. Let me just spill a little bit. Everyone says they want to collaborate. But when it comes right down to it, what collaboration used to look like is, well, we'll talk to our board of directors, and if they approve, we'll add your logo to our website. And I said, that ain't going to do it. The world's challenging us to come together in ways we haven't before. So I had Chief Phil Lane and I wrote this paper. I met Chief Phil at the Seeds of Compassion with the Dalai Lama. And he had never used a computer, or barely at the time. And I said to him, hey, when he shared those guiding principles, I was so inspired by that. I said, those principles could be the basis of a community operating system online. So we wrote this paper about deep social networks and the digital fourth way and all that stuff. But that taught us about trust. Well, we said with the power of trust, the trust frequency, as Connie's articulated, that we could do so much more together. So that's why the fact that Sommer and I are admins on over 200 Facebook pages, that each other and empowering each other and using that trust to be able to, in the SINE world, because SINE is like a network exchange, like a stock exchange. Now, in a stock exchange, you trade shares to raise financial capital. Here, we're trading shares to raise social capital. In fact, that's just what happened when you went live. It went from your page to many other SINE members' pages who are trading shares, who are reciprocating with each other. So that's the story of Compassion Games, growing out of compassionate cities, and the birth of SINE, which is really all about collaborative learning, innovation, and unprecedented unified action. There you go.
Wow. Thank you. Well, then I have my next question. If anybody else doesn't have a question, if you do, just raise your hand.
Raise your hand, throw it in the chat, whatever works for you.
How did Ben Bowler come into your life and Unity Earth?
All of this is a miracle, right?
It is.
Of course it is.
That's right. It's like there's a magic. There's something bigger orchestrating all of these relations, really,
it is.
and timing of it all.
And it kind of inspires me to want to honor you guys for the way that you've taken the legacy of Barbara Marx Hubbard. And so the story with Ben is a guy named Jeff Vanderkloot, who I've known for many years. Jeff's brilliant, and he has on more than one occasion said, you should get to know Jon Ramer and Sommer Joy Ramer. So Ben introduced us.
I wasn't Sommer Joy Ramer then.
You weren't Sommer Joy Ramer then. But thanks to Jeff, we went to Ethiopia. And that was our first encounter with Unity Earth. And I don't know if you were there yesterday, but my God, it was so beautiful. Okay. And it's honoring you guys in the same spirit because we've been planning what's next. And Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, his work integrally related with Barbara's work. And I shared this video that Ben shared with me as we're thinking about World Unity Week, what that's going to be like during the Peace Convergence. Of him visiting. Did you see that? Yeah.
We both saw that.
Yeah, we were on
I
the,
did see
we were on
that.
the second
We have a
open
second
space call.
Okay.
It was
So
beautiful.
you realize, all of us, there's something magical. There's something that our explanations fall short. It's like we need a story to tell so it makes sense, but the truth is there's something greater than the story that we're telling that's bringing us together to do the work we're doing. And it's a privilege. I could cry. That whole World Unity experience for us, that so many people were so moved by that, and to be a part of serving in that way, that's what fuels us right now. We know we're onto something. The wind is in our sails. This great disruption is causing us all to have the kind of conversations we haven't had before, whether it's having to do with abuse of power or race, or having to do with, what kind of future we really want. How do we find our way forward? So Ben has been such a gift to us, and that whole Unity Earth experience, starting in Ethiopia for us, and then with every stop along the way since, and what's coming towards us is just remarkable.
So the Ethiopia trip was 2018?
Yeah, it was in February 2018.
World Interfaith Harmony Week. The King of Jordan started that in 2012, like you mentioned earlier. And that's been that first week of February. We were in New York the year after, and then we were just in the Holy Land together, all during first week of February.
And then I think we saw you at the Parliaments of World Religion.
We were there as well.
And it was also Byron Bay, Australia was another trip in 2018, a convergence gathering, along with the Aboriginal, what was his name? It was
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah.
I want to put you on the spot. Is there any possibility you could show that video you showed yesterday at Teilhard de Chardin?
I can. I'd love to. I'd really love to.
It's very special.
Accident.
Screen.
Oh, and there's so much synergy now. So here's the crazy thing. You'll have to probably give me permission to share. But
Co-host or what?
Yeah,
co-host is fine. Co-host is fine. But what happened is David invited Sommer and I. So David's work with the Empowerment Institute and Social Change.
David Gershon.
So he invited us to come for their last workshop that he and Gail were doing, the empowerment workshop at the Omega Institute. I didn't make the connection of the Omega Institute was named after the Omega Point, which is coming from Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. And then on our way home.
No, it was on our way there.
No, it was on our way home.
I thought it was on our way there. That
we were with name in the car. We were called to stop at the American Culinary Institute. And that is the spot that the cemetery's at.
Wow.
And I was on a call with Alexander Laszlo, another SINE member, the other day, and I was talking to him about Pierre. He says, well, John, my whole work on syntony, where that comes from. He said, I asked Barbara Marx Hubbard where she got the notion of syntony, and she said it came from Pierre Teilhard de Chardin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was totally inspired by Pierre de Chardin.
Yeah. I know. So there's something here that...
She actually know him? I think she actually knew him in New York.
You know who knows him in New York? Jean Houston does. She has stories. And I haven't talked to Jean about it, but I've heard people when I bring him up now. So what happened yesterday, and I'm going to show that video, I don't know if Ben's dad had seen it, because Ben explains that his father, it was like Chardin was his guru, because he archaeologist, The Phenomenon of Man, that book came out. So Ben had his mom go get his dad, and his dad came in and we shared the video I'm about to share now, which Ben recorded in 2016, just before the election, on the eve of All Hallows. He went to the cemetery to visit. And you're right. It's a classic. And the words that he speaks.
And it's an example of, we're all in the right place. It's just, this is so much of what he's saying there is what's manifesting right now
Yeah.
through so many of us.
So this was before Unity Earth. He had onegod.com.
Mhm.
And this is
Here we are at the tomb of, well, the cemetery at least, of Teilhard de Chardin, and it's raining. It's Sunday afternoon, day before Halloween. The cemetery. We're going to go find Teilhard up here in Poughkeepsie, north of New York City. It's a beautiful little cemetery here. So we're going to go find Teilhard and pay our respects. And here in the Jesuit cemetery, as the leaves are falling, here lies Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, prophet, seer, visionary, scientist, philosopher, mystic, priest, champion, a visionary and prophet of the convergence. Coined the term noosphere, wrote about the omega point to which all the universe has been drawn. Lover of life, divine in vision, follower of Christ. Here lies Teilhard de Chardin, told us that one day all things shall come together in the great convergence, infinite beauty, with love as the synergy that harmonizes all things, the very nature of the cosmos. And so we say today, until that day, until that day.
Well, there you go.
Wow.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for sharing that again.
That's a meditation in itself.
Yeah, it is.
Just
It was prophetic what Ben spoke there, especially given that the convergence is the up convergence, unity and peace.
Yeah, we saw that yesterday. I love it.
well, explain the up,
Yeah, explain the up.
Unity and peace.
unity and peace.
Let
Well,
me just tell you before you do that Andrew and I met at the Omega Point at Omega Institute in 2003. So
What year was that, Connie?
Really?
2003
Wait, when
2003.
2000?
at the Omega Point.
Amazing.
So this is, it's not to suggest that this is a formula of some type, but obviously when we hear from single conscious individuals that they're looking for their soulmate, they should go to the Omega Point, or they should at least participate in compassion games someplace.
Compassion activation stations are really good as well.
Absolutely. We
Yeah.
took it up high. We had it up high.
What's that?
What do compassion activation centers do?
Well, it was at like a farmer's market, and it was like a group of artists, just these amazing women mostly that were there, and then you showed up. And John helped build this activation station, but the big poster that we have in our office is what was there that says one heart, one house, one
Prayer.
not the Natsama Alliance. So it was the idea of kind of gathering people together at this booth and painting prayer flags, and then we got to receive these fabric hearts, which we have in drawers all over our house now, of these fabric hearts that then so I was there for probably an hour just painting prayer flags, because that's And then the only other thing that I did at that farmer's market that day, this was like back, I don't know if you remember this, but like, you know, this was back in 2014. And there were these, often at farmer's market, these kind of like shamans or sages that would have a typewriter and they would write a poem for you on the spot. And that was the only other thing I did right before I went to the compassion activation station. As I waited in this line and I was like, I'd love for this guy to write me a poem. And he was like, well, what would you like your poem about? And I said, surrender. And he wrote this amazing poem. And of course he has to commit to it. It's not on a computer, it's on a typewriter. So he had to, you know, and it just downloaded and he shared it. It was amazing. And then that was when I met Jon. The next moment.
And the story gets wilder because
Oh yeah, totally wilder.
I've been working with Phil for years,
Yeah.
and for some reason, in the first 5 minutes of talking with Sommer, she started to tell me that someone had said to her that on the land that she lives is the spirit of Lost Bird. And that land is the land we're on right now.
Yeah.
There was a Chautauqua here
Yeah.
70 years to the day before Sommer was born. On that day, Lost Bird came here to tell her story for the first time. She was a Lakota woman who had been found alive under her mother who had been killed at Wounded Knee.
Yeah. And my neighbor, just about a week before I met Jon, had been haunted by the spirit of Lost Bird and came to my doorstep, literally, and with this story to tell me. And he said that the reason he's been haunted, well, nudged by this spirit, was he realized as soon as he met me that that's why he had been nudged, because he needed to pass on the story to me, which was kind of boggling, and I didn't know what to do with that, and I didn't really feel there was a place for me to share that with anyone until I met Jon. And I, for whatever reason, multiple reasons, but there was this, you know, resonance with him, and I started to share that story for the first time with him. And then how did the story that got lost at that moment became found, because her story had been written, and I had one of the last hard copy books my neighbor gave to me about her life, which there's a lot of parallels. My life and her life actually have some really interesting, darker time parallels. And the story had been lost, but it had reached her origins through Jon when you had told me about Phil, Hereditary Chief Phil Lane. The story got back to her people and became a part of a massive global healing ceremony on the origin lands of Wounded Knee, and her story was shared there. So there became a full circle through this, the timing and the.
I know. There's things in life that you just can't explain. You just are humbled by. But like the journey we're all on, right? That we find ourselves here right now. This is what it looks like. There are no accidents, you know. I learned this years ago. There are 3 states of certainty. Yes, no, and I don't know. And I realize a lot of the really big questions in life, I don't know. But somewhere I decided that I'd hate to find out that I could have made a difference. So I'm going to operate as if everything matters. Not 1 second is wasted. And it's in that spirit that, you know, we honor you guys for what you've been doing all these years, carrying this torch, recognizing that we're better together. We belong together. And we need to figure it out. It's hard. I know it's tough. There are many dark nights of the soul when you do this kind of stuff. You wonder, does anyone really care? Does anyone else understand? What's it take to feel known? Well, we're discovering that. We're learning together that this is it. And now is our time.
And I really appreciate that, Jon, because you know, in our journey, which has been, I'd say our spiritual journey is probably only 10 or 12 years of getting a clue that pursuing life through the lens of somebody telling us what the American dream is, and we're supposed to pursue that, and having stepped aside from that only 10 or 12 years ago, that it is hard, and many people are on a spiritual journey. Organizations rise up, like you were talking about trust before. That's so much of a challenge. We've been blessed to get to know a number of spiritual leaders over the course of these 12 years. And in the case of some of them, you know, we have seen sides of them that are very human. and and so this idea of the amount of trust that it takes for us to co-create together, not just cooperate or get along or whatever, but as long as you don't touch my brand or my membership or my mailing list or my where I'm monetizing something or whatever. And so it really so much more feels like we're in a different time now. And I'd appreciate, this subject of world synergy. I'd appreciate any other thoughts that you two have about what does that mean to you, world synergy, and how do you see it progressing at this moment in time? What other things might any of us do that could promote it further?
Beautiful, beautiful. Want to speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that comes in my mind, and this is more from my personal work called the Garden of Joy, is actually, checking in, and everything also related to Phil's work of starting from within, starting in a circle, that the most important part is really asking, yourself, like, what actually really lights you up to be a part of in this world, or what is your purpose? Why are you here on planet Earth? There is a reason, I believe, that every single person is here to contribute to peace on Earth by 2030. Every single person has a particular reason, and also at the heart, at the center of the flower of the Garden of Joy, I believe, in the center of every person is where you have the most joy. That may joy be the discerning, thermometer of knowing, like, that you're in the right place, you're having the right conversations, something's bubbling in you, and there is, I believe, the possibilities. And I think when I think of Barbara Marx Hubbard, when she talked about the work, and look at your beautiful logo there, the spiral, the wheel of co-creation. I believe that there is this efficiency, and we all have something to contribute to that. All the sectors in SINE Network, as members apply, they also are letting us know what sectors are a part of their work. And I think that that's one of the first things that's so important for anyone out there that's kind of trying to find their way in this very strange time, and maybe they feel isolated. But so much of the co-creators and synergy and unity, it's about, let's not do this alone anymore. And there is a way of doing our work that is humbly for the goodness of the whole. And I don't have to do everything to make synergy alive. There's something that we all contribute that is, to me, that medicine of unity. It's like, wow, when I walk away from any conversation that's about synergy and about the contribution that's so beyond ego and not about John or me, it's so not about us. When I'm a part of conversation that feels that joy is like alive, and I feel healed being in the conversation, to me, that's the universe saying yes, that we need each other. So wherever there's that optimal aliveness of, rainbows and support happening in so many different directions, like all at the same time, that's happening a lot right now in SINE. And in World Unity Week is an amazing example of that, like trusting where you are in this moment right now. So for me, that is what I'm always looking for. It's like, there's a transmitter to, like, the ultimate synergy, the ultimate expressions of collaboration. And I see often when I'm in conversations where the next possibility is for not that evolution that's just like waiting to be realized, that there's that pulse to always expand and not actually know, like that not knowing part too, and the feedback that's there, to be listening to that.
Yeah. No, that's the faith above reason. As opposed to faith within reason, right?
Right.
That
Well,
this is all somehow being divinely orchestrated. And
absolutely.
synergy that we find in our unity comes from the indigenous woman, Patricia Ann Davis. I learned so much from her. She says, authenticity grants authority. Authenticity grants authority. So I'm relying on that. I'm counting on me in this moment being able to say, okay, I might have screwed up, or taking responsibility and being as vulnerable as I need to be in order to be real with each other. So we can make this really meaningful, that we don't waste our time. We don't have any time for small talk. And if we can empower each other, being so inspired, when you talk about world synergy, let's tell the truth. For me, about world synergy, it's so hard to imagine what this world is like, except we're all in the same conversation. For the first time, I think ever, everybody on this planet has been affected by this virus. Whether you're in the jungle, whether you're in the city, everybody. So that's not trivial. Where all of a sudden there is enormous potential for the world as a voice to be heard and to say, we need to change things. Now, one of the things I've learned is that you connect through your similarity and innovate through your diversity. So we need to honor our difference as a source of strength. And I got to tell the truth. When we were planning World Unity Week, we couldn't even, we went to the Valley of Megiddo together, right? The history of Armageddon, at some moment when we started the plan for World Unity Week, I said, this is right out of the Bible. This is the Tower of Babel. We built all these Trello boards. We couldn't even agree on the time zone. Just when we tell someone we're all going to start with Eastern time, people, oh my God, no. That's the confusion. That's the challenge we're facing. So to start to really be global. So we're going to move to the UTC. We asked Jude Currivan, she blessed it, Universal Coordinated Time, or we're going to call Unity Time.
And is that the time zone?
It's actually a time standard. But I'm just using this as an example to start to really be a global citizen. And I'm not afraid of being called a globalist. That's okay, I guess. But I really do believe that we are all precious childs of Creator. We all have a right to this planet. And anyone that wants to get in the way of Mother Earth caring for its children, watch out. Because the world's not going to tolerate it anymore. Whether it's the abuse of power that led to the way women have been trivialized, or all the injustice that's been brought to African Americans or Palestinians. I mean, the list goes on. This is the time to start to honor these tough conversations and say we need to change. We do need to change. We can't use race as a political tool to divide us. We're bigger than that. We can see through that. These are old patterns that don't serve us anymore. So that's why I'm so on fire about the potential of what we can do together, because I see it manifesting in the way people are supporting each other. Look at Fumi. Fumi's such a great example. It wasn't too long ago Fumi said, well, I don't really like to go live and be in front of
Turning
people.
off the electricity. He's so fired up that he's turning off the electricity.
Fire. She has challenged herself to come out and to come forward. And I've get on calls where she's got 500 people from Japan coming together to be with her to honor May Peace Prevail on Earth. Or you, Olivia, what you're up to. How many years? You said 30 some odd years of honoring Indigenous elders. I can't hear that and just let that go by. I know what it is to do something for 10 years, 30 years. Oh my God.
I met Venerable Dahani Wahu, who is a 27th lineage carrier of the Tuslegi or Cherokee. She's also a female, an emanation of a female Buddha. She's a Dharma teacher in 2 Buddhist lineages. I met her in 1978 when I was looking for an indigenous medicine woman, because my research, which led to my doctoral research at Harvard, was wondering who becomes a healer and how are they educated, both in allopathic medicine and in indigenous cultures. So I interviewed psychiatrists and compared them to indigenous healers.
Oh my gosh. Now, you could say that was like a paragraph. Wow. But to really honor what you just shared with us in 1978, that's a gift. These are the precious gifts we have. But we need to learn how to cherish and be able to weave together at this time. We need that knowledge. You've been on a journey.
Well, I'm not alone. We have a wonderful community, and these elders, I just can't, I'm so glad that I can share this because they're coming from Hawaii and Mexico again because of the travel restrictions. They haven't been able to be in person since 2011. But now with Zoom, and hopefully I was watching you, Jon and Sommer, with such joy as you navigated Zoom during World Unity Week, and you made it so safe. So I hope that if you all join us next weekend, that you'll be as compassionate with us as we navigate Zoom.
Of course, Olivia, my gosh.
But it's wonderful. We have just, I mean, these elders, when you think about how they've been treated globally and how they're so generous because they have had these teachings for thousands of years. But they're star people, you know, they know all about how to live on Mother Earth and really honor her, and what we can do at COVID, what we can do now, because we do have time to prepare, but time is running out. So I hope you'll all come next weekend and tell your friends and your wonderful organizations. I'm taking notes, and I hope there's going to be a recording because.
Yeah, no, Olivia, we will follow up.
Wonderful.
I just want to say, Ingrid was wondering, what is this event? Can you say the name?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I put it in the chat.
Okay,
Yeah, it's up there.
It's the 36th Sunray Peace Village Native American Elders Gathering. And it takes place on Zoom for the very first time. Next weekend, it begins at 9 o'clock on Friday morning, and it ends at 8 o'clock on Saturday. And it ends with a very ancient healing ceremony, which will be partially brought to you in this Peace Arbor, actually filmed there. And when the dark comes, it will not be filmed, but when the light is there. And then Sunday, there are workshops with some of our most wonderful elders. And we have a wonderful grandfather, Clifford Mahudi, whom you may have heard of, some of you. He is coming, he's not coming in person because we want to keep everybody safe, and him also, but he will be presenting. He's a Zuni elder, very, very respected. And we have just amazing people. If you go on, I put it in the chat, it's sunray.org/elders gathering. You can find our website. We have a lot of information. And we also have a wonderful concert by a Mohawk singing group on Friday night, and an amazing film showing of a Native American award-winning film at 5 o'clock on Friday. So if you register, you get the full film showing for free. And if you register, you can have the recordings as well. And there are different stars, 1 star, 2 star, 3 stars. So we've tried to make it really possible for everybody to attend. Because I so agree with what you're saying, Jon and Sommer, that it is time, and not to leave anybody out, you know, just to really make it so easy for us all to be together.
Yeah.
So thank you for giving me a little time to share this.
Yeah.
There's also Buddhist lamas, and you know, it's very wonderful that they are so generous.
Sounds like our kind of gathering.
I think it is your kind of gathering.
It is.
I know. I'm so excited. Talk about joy, Sommer.
Yeah, that's what I want to hear.
Yeah, and Venerable's always telling us that we have to remember our joy markers.
Yes.
Venerable Dahani Wahu. She is telling us all the time. So I've been learning how to remember those joy markers. Yeah, there have been a lot of them, even during this pandemic, you know.
Absolutely.
Like this. I mean, here we are, like-minded human beings from all over. And Bob and Noel, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And Barbara.
I still have some
Barbara
people to
Hubbard.
connect
I
you to,
mean,
Olivia.
excuse me?
I said I still have some people to connect you to. Of course,
Oh,
Fumi.
I'd love to. I'd love to.
Others.
And I feel Barbara's with us because I saw her film the other night and I felt her frustration, you know, that she didn't think she was doing enough. And look what she's done.
Indeed.
So anyway, thank you.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
somehow, Olivia, I think, you know, we're having, maybe John and Summer can talk about this. What we have coming up is UP, and that's Unity and Peace. And I want them to talk a little bit about that. But, you know,
Yeah.
Bob and I are registered for your event, and then we did a little scholarship for somebody else to be able to attend.
And when is that going to happen?
Your event. She's saying that they're just affirming that they're going to be at your event, that they've
Oh,
not only
wonderful,
signed up,
wonderful.
they've also
Yeah.
helping pay for someone else to go as well.
So
But-
Thank
sweet.
you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, that's so you
And
guys
then-
are generous.
But I think maybe some of your recordings might be able to be played during the Peace Week, the
Peace
Up Week,
Weekend.
or
Yeah.
Peace.
Yeah,
Please
yeah. I was thinking about that. That's going to happen September.
Well, I'll tell you
Turn
what's
it over
unfolding.
to John.
Yeah. Let me tell you what I know is unfolding. So we were planning, Unity Earth was, with our support in the SINE Network, a physical caravan of unity across the United States. Well, we're not going to let that stop us just because we can't do it. So August 28th is a very special day. It's the anniversary of Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech.
Right.
And it's also the day that the Grace Cathedral in San Francisco had given us. So Ben and I went there on behalf of this caravan of unity. They were fabulous, and they said yes. And now Fumi, who's in San Francisco, is talking about doing something there on that day. So we're not going to miss those days. So August 28th is going to begin the caravan of unity, whether it's going to be, virtually or not. We were planning to go through, a number of different locations, and we still are, and we're going to be building momentum, not physically, but virtually. So, in St. Louis, just to give you an example, we ran into Dr. Marty Casey. It was Pookie who introduced us. Oh my God, her work on the Ungun Institute is so relevant right now. So St. Louis is part of this, and actually we're doing something with her before the 28th. August 6th and August 9th are two tough days. It's the 75th anniversary of our bombing of Hiroshima.
Oh,
August 6th, and then August 9th is Nagasaki. And we were talking with Ungun because another SINE member is Voices for a World Free of Nuclear Weapons, which is Bishop Swing, who founded URI when he was the bishop at Grace Cathedral. Look at the weaving, it's so interesting here. And we said, well, maybe we need to unnuke, not just ungun. And the fact that the 9th is Nagasaki, which is often not remembered with Hiroshima being the first. Well, she said August 9th. That's a very, very auspicious day here in Ferguson. And that's now become Black Sunday, S-O-N. It's the anniversary of the death of Michael Brown.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So Dr. Marty Casey has access to many, many moms who lost their sons.
Yeah.
And that day is going to be a special day, August 9th. And that's one of these stops along the journey of what we're going to be doing to build momentum to the 28th. And then throughout the entire month of September, as we move towards the 11 days of global unity. Rick Ulfik and We the World has been doing that. This will be the 17th year. So nested within the 11 days is going to be an 8-day Unity and Peace Global Convergence 2020, which is a multi-Zoom summit. And that's going to lead to the 3 days for the World Peace Weekend. So there is a tremendous opportunity to weave these things together. The Caravan of Unity, the 11 days of global unity, the 8-day convergence, and the 3-day peace weekend. And that's the thinking so far. In fact, one other piece I can share with you, just to get the words right, is there is a quote here again from Pierre. Check this out. Here is what we've put together is, and this is unbranded because we're just trying to strip it down to the very core. But this picture here, Unity and Peace, Global Convergence 2020, an 8-day multi-Zoom summit culminating in a 3-day peace weekend, followed by then this quote here. And in fact, I changed the word there, Connie, thanks to you. Remain true to yourself and move ever upward toward greater consciousness and greater love. At the summit, you will find yourselves united with all of those who, from every direction, have made the same ascent. For everything that rises must converge.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
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 I don't know what the guy was smoking or what he was drinking or what he was doing, but boy, he
It
seemed
was
to be
Boy.
in tune
in
with our times.
alignment.
Wow.
And that is
Well,
an invitation as well. So it's not just these are all events that we're seeking to bring presenters, and there's lots of
Oh, yeah.
opportunity here, and as well in the SINE Network. The Compassion Games is also part of what the 11 Days of Global Unity, and the story of the Compassion Games has been played during the 11 Days of Global Unity for many, many years of
Oh,
people
cool.
all over the world. So yes, it's an invitation. I just
Right.
want to say all
Right.
of this is.
Right. Each of you are invited to present, just like we did last time. We're going to have, I hope, co-creators convergence room.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody that's a steward. It's a room and a board. To be a steward, you get a room and board. We give you a trophy.
You're never bored.
You put the maze in amazing.
Yeah.
It was hard to sleep during World Unity Week. I would sometimes be like, John, I'm going to go take a nap. And what that actually looked like was my iPad, like laying on the bed, and I would watch one of the World Unity rooms that I hadn't seen yet. That was my version of a nap during World Unity Week. So,
Well, I got to dance with you one day,
Yeah.
Summer.
Yeah.
yeah, we had fun, didn't we? Yeah,
Yeah.
that was in the World Music and Dance room. You joined me as we danced into World Unity.
Yeah, that was fun. That was fun.
That was a good.
Whether we should unmute everyone so we can have more of a conversation. And
Please.
as usual, I've been hogging all the questions and comments.
And I also want to acknowledge for a moment, because you said something about the logo. Where is it? I have to get in the right place.
Go ahead.
The Co-Convergence logo. It's Kathy down here in this box or that box, depending on where
We
you
get so many compliments on that logo.
We do.
Kathy Mason.
So
the
beautiful.
one that created that logo for the
Yeah.
Convergence a number of years ago. And all the colors of the chakras and the world, and hugging it in the spiral, and a little bit of Barbara inspiration. And thank you, Kathy. It's it just is, it's
Yes.
true.
And she was major player in our World Co-Creators Day, which was part of World Unity Week. And boy, was that a drink out of the fire hose. And that was really fun. But
yeah, so let's others that would like to join in the conversation,
if you
please.
just want to wave your hand and or speak, or just unmute, have a comment, a question. It's I promised them it'd be an hour to an hour and a half, so we still have some time, if that's okay with you, John and Summer, to spend a little more time with us. Okay, Kathy?
I just wanted to share that the energy and the hope that you could feel is palpable during World Unity Week. And I wanted you to know, I just took a class for 5 days where there was a pocket of people just like us. And so I think you're going to see, and I told them all about you guys, about SINE, but I think you're going to see, because there's people that realize that this is an activation time, and they don't know what to do. And they're sort of searching out, and then they go, oh. So you go by the energy in it, not necessarily by the logic. Because if we had logic, we wouldn't have done that in 2 weeks.
That's right. Exactly, Kathy. Exactly.
Yeah, but you know what? I still have people that we could have included that we couldn't fit them all in. So, I've been doing this for 20 years. So I know there's so many people that want to play that don't know how to find their soul tribe. And that's what we do with Co-Creators Convergence each year. Every year, people get together, and